Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for a discussion on Does your organization need platform engineering? This is a Lead Dev webinar created in partnership with Harness. The webinar will last roughly 45 minutes, and then we will all gonna go to the Lead Dev Slack channel called Technical Strategy to answer some of your questions. And we may also have like a couple of minutes after at the end of this session to respond to your Q&A. So use the Zoom Q&A functionality to send us your questions. And let me start. Let me start with introducing myself and the panelists that I'm really looking forward to speak to today. So first, my name, Simone. I'm Simone Casciaroli, and I'm the head of engineering at Dockla. Previously, I held head of engineering title both at Babylon Health and Onto, and I've been part of at least 5 platform teams. Probably not all of them were very effective. So this topic is very, very important to me. And I'm really glad I have these fantastic panelists with me to trying to tackle this topic. Let's start with the intro. I'll start from my left. Nayana.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nayana Shetty. I'm a principal engineer working at the Lego Group. I work in the marketing and channels technology area, so less to do with actually building the next fantastic Lego models, but more to do with how do we sell them and how do we create that engaging experience for kids and adults who play with our products. And my experience has been I started off working in platform teams and then now have moved into a more consumer or front end user facing teams just to see that experience and how different the experience would be when you're building a platform product to when you're consuming a platform product. So my story is a bit more on how do we consume platform products. So that's me today.
Brilliant. Mirella.
Yes. Oh, wow, I couldn't speak. Yes, hi. My name is Mirella Batista. I am an STSM at IBM. STSM stands for Senior Technical Staff Member. I have over 20 years of experience as a software engineer, and I've recently made that switch from a consumer-facing product to a team that is supporting our platform and developer experience portal, driving developer advocacy strategy as part of the software and developer experience team at IBM CIO organization. That's a mouthful. And at CIO, we support the technical community in the thousands of basically CIO supports the IT that runs all of IBM. And my job is to help our CIO technical community adopt our internal offerings.
Thank you. Thank you. Martin, what about you?
Yeah, I'm Martin Reynolds. I'm field CTO at Harness. However, I am more than 30 years in software development. Yeah, and specifically, I won't go through all of that. There's a lot, but specifically in my previous company, especially, I was part of a team that built the initial platform there. I will quickly relay that we built that by saying we're going to have a hackathon and everyone has to build on the platform. Then there was a small team of us that had to build the platform to do that to get it started. But I was involved in that for several years. My work at Harness is more working with a lot of companies in helping platform teams kind of get the benefit of their platform engineering and be able to deliver that out.
Thank you, Martin. And last but not least, Jamie.
Hi, I'm Jamie Tanner. I'm a senior software engineer at Elastic, where I work in our platform engineering productivity organization, which is my first official role working on platforms. But over like the last 4 years in particular, I've always been working on them like on the side. So I've been in a product team building products for like end users, but then I've also kind of been working on stuff that either makes my life more effective or other engineers within the company. And it's definitely been nice joining Elastic and seeing like officially like working on it full time and being able to see some of the other side. Whereas before it was more just as a consumer, and a little bit of shipping stuff on the side.
Brilliant. Thank you all. So before we start with the questions, I really want to frame this conversation. So the question is about, do you really need platform engineering? And so let's clarify with a couple of terminology. When we're going to talk about platform, we mean internal platform, meaning that basically the end user of the platform are likely going to be engineers in your team. Now, to be even more specific, I'm going to paraphrase the very famous definition of platform from Evan Butcher, and this is going to help us understand where some of the comments are going to come from. So according to Evan, a platform, the purpose of the platform is to provide a product that is a combination of API, tools, documentation, and support that help engineers do their job more effectively. As you notice, it doesn't sound very different from a product team, like Jamie said, actually, because basically the customer are just other engineers. So this is why later on, we're going to find out that some of the tools that normal product manager use are going to be useful for your platform team. Now, saying that, it's not all that bottom up. So we're going to find out during the next 40 minutes that basically like some stuff is not like we expected. So not everything is a bottom up approach to product. But let me start. The first question I had in mind is really about purpose. So I really want to understand a bit more from a few of you. What's the purpose of platform in your organization and how platform benefit your organization? And I know, Nayana, you have like a nice story about it. So, maybe you can start.
Sure. So yeah, when I think about platform engineering, there's probably two aspects of platform engineering that fits into the definition that Simone, you just mentioned. The first one is to do with the core engineering platforms. And this could be things like a shared Kubernetes platform or a shared API platform. But then we also have business capability platforms. And an example of it is, so I'm currently working on the digital assets that we produce for the Lego Group. And how do we store them? Where do we store them? So the storage needed for these digital assets, it's solving a business capability, but it's still a platform that's needed across different parts of the organization. And it's engineering teams who would actually benefit from having those central storage for this. So that's how I kind of see platform teams using these two kind of platform capabilities. One is the core engineering platforms, and the other is to do with the business capability platforms itself. And there's some common principles that all of these platforms kind of hold, like they all have to be scalable, they have to be reliable. The most important thing, easy to integrate and adopt, which is always the hardest to get right. And also it should be a collaborative platform, that it's not just developed by a small group of engineers, but it's something that anyone can work on and evolve the platform as they learn about it and stuff. So for me, like there's two main aspects of what are the benefits of having platform and platforms within an organization. The first one is to accelerate innovation in a stream-aligned or like consumer-facing team. So they're not worrying about where do I host this, where do I store this. So it's more about them focusing on how can I provide the maximum value and innovation for our consumers while I can rely on some other teams to support me through the process. And the second thing is probably risk mitigation, which is how do I make sure that I am not like, there's security vulnerabilities coming through all the time. There's data security issues that keep coming all the time. So how do I make sure that I'm protected and I don't have to worry about it every single time I'm doing a deployment? And there are some core functionalities that's provided by platform teams that I can then rely on. So that's how I kind of see the benefits of having a platform engineering team and some platforms that can support us in the process.
Yeah, we have something kind of similar, but also different. So I think for us, one of the things I would say is that, internally right now, our internal platform is essentially also the same platform that we sell externally. So actually, those two things that you were talking about very much overlap for us. But some of those things, that you're also talking about are kind of really key to the way we innovate and operate at pace. You know, we want people to innovate quickly. We want them to be able to deploy fast. We want to get stuff out to the customer fast, but we want to do that in a safe and secure way. I think that, you know, self-service of those things, being able to, you know, spin up a pipeline or, you know, be able to deploy to that platform and do it quickly and, you know, knowing it's secure, knowing it's the right governance, you know, essentially making it really easy for the developer to consume those platform services. And I think then, you know, that's when you get the true benefit. And I you know, I think that's a consistent thing with platform engineering overall. It's about taking away some of the repetitive work, because that is like the other part of platform, you know, making sure that we have reusable shared parts of the system that people can use in their consumer products, you know, whether they're underlying infrastructure pieces or whether they're actual services that do something, I don't know, say, for example, SSO, or, you know, could be anything that's part of that platform that actually really drives value by them being consumed by that. And you know, teams aren't repeating work, which is, you know, another value of kind of that platform engineering approach.
That's so true. So true. And, you know, obviously there is like a lot of accent into risk mitigation, you know, security, acceleration of that are potentially in my mind sometimes harder to sell. So my next question is really like, how do we promote the value of platform team across the organization? Because obviously if you have a product team, it's quite clear how that impact the value of the business, but how do we do it for platform? Nayana, do you want to start on this one as well?
Sure. I think Martin kind of touched on a few of these things as he was speaking. So, like, there are probably two aspects to this. The first one is productivity gains, and the second is efficiencies. And they're very interlinked. And it's showing those productivity gains with time saved, or like the speed to market is what we have to, like, we probably have to exaggerate it a bit more, because it's very hard otherwise to see the value of it to the end customer and stuff. And also when it comes to efficiency, it can be cost efficiency, ease of handling, and maintaining our the vulnerabilities or the security concerns that we've got. And like, it's those kind of things that we kind of ignore, and we think that's taken for granted in a lot of the consumer facing teams, is what we have to highlight when it comes to how do we sell and promote platforms and platform engineering teams itself. There's another aspect to this which has become more and more evident more recently, with a lot of companies working towards having a smaller group of engineering force trying to achieve the maximum value that we can get and stuff. There's an element of ease of movement of engineers between different teams and stuff, which becomes a lot more easier when we have a shared platform that, as an engineer, I only have to learn the domain specific knowledge when I move between teams, rather than having to learn, like, how do I deploy? How do I make sure that the right CI/CD platform is in use and stuff? So I think these are kinds of things that I would look at in seeing how we can make or promote the value of like platform engineering going forward. Like, think more in terms of productivity and efficiency gains, and not only from like the how we produce the product, but also the engineering culture that we're trying to create, and all of that aspect of the organization and stuff.
Yeah, again, overlapping a little bit, but I've kind of had experience at multiple places for platform, and certainly, you know, there was quite a big difference in the approach to that, in the way, you know, we do that at Harness and the way that happens, say, for example, in my previous company. You know, in Harness, being, you know, using the platform isn't optional. You need to be building on the platform, you know, and you do get all those wonderful advantages, if you see what I mean. But actually, that kind of promotion of the platform, certainly at my previous company, was very, very different, because they had, you know, well over 100 products in all sorts of domains, from education to health to finance to goodness knows what. There was everything in there, it felt like. You know, and getting those teams to take advantage of the platform was much more of, if you like, an internal marketing campaign, as well as, you needed to sell those benefits internally and help engineers understand those benefits. I think I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later anyway, but there is that kind of, bottom up, top down. The other thing is that, and I think you alluded to it, but in your previous answer, actually, that feeding into the platform. Hey, I'm building this thing and this doesn't exist in the platform, but it feels like it is, enabling them to contribute towards that. Whether that's by, adding resource to the platform team temporarily, or having kind of an inner source culture where they can do pull requests into the, there's different strategies for doing that. I haven't seen the inner source one work personally, although I always loved that idea. I've seen it work more as a collaboration between a product team and the platform team. I've seen that work very, very well, where they collaborate on a feature in the platform, or some infrastructure in the platform or whatever it is to kind of deliver that out. But that also helps with the internal marketing, if that makes sense, and the desire for adoption. Because what happens is then you have a good story to tell. Hey, product A accelerated their delivery and now this is available for everyone and we did it together. And I think that kind of story really helps developers see the value.
And Martin, just to follow up on, because what about, apart from developer, how do you do, because sometimes selling is about selling to the people that provide you the budget. So
yes. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And there's, again, that happens, I've seen that happen differently in the different organizations I've worked in. Currently, because the platform that we use and the platform engineering that we do and that our internal, developer platform, if you like, is built on is our own platform. It's very much, mandated and fully part of that. And so there isn't necessarily a reason to upsell it because it is part of it's core to what we do. However, it's still treated as a product in the organization. It still needs to justify its budget and spend and value. And all of those things still have to happen. If we want the best out of the platform parts of our solutions, then, they need to be in the conversations. Previously, my previous company, they had a very different approach in a lot of ways because, the value of platform did really need to be, kind of sold, maybe not so much to the strategy side, from a strategy perspective, to the CEO, the CTO type people. They understood the value of having a platform. They understood that it could make things easier and make them go faster. But actually, it's kind of getting the chief product officer on board, getting the, those product managers on board. And there is a real sell there, and it's about adding that value, but it's also about really showing, you have to show the financial side of it. It can't be, yes, because if it's saving time, then that's actually saving money. And that makes you more effective and, gets your cost of goods sold down and makes you more profitable as a business. You have to be able to talk in those terms when you talk about the platform. It can't just be, hey, it makes everything easier for developers. It makes everything easier for developers. And guess what? They're now saving 10% more time. That 10% across my, 100 developers equates to £1 million saving a year, or redirected effort towards product features. Hey, isn't that a good benefit? That's why you should invest.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. That clarified. Mirella, I know you had some interesting insight on this one as well.
Thank you. Yeah, and to Martin's point about inner source, we do have an inner source effort. But overall, support of this platform, contributing to this platform, communication is key. Communication with our globally distributed teams so that they understand the value we make a real effort in explaining what is it? What is this supposed to do? Why is it important for you? It's not just, our businesses reduce and simplify. What is it? Why is it important for you? It's going to, you're going to have less bugs. It's going to help you reduce the time in some tasks so you can dedicate more time to do more interesting, solve more interesting problems. And, how do you use it is also very important. not just throwing people into the middle of this and saying, figure it out. You have a very busy backlog, but figure it out. So the what, the why, and the how. And like Martin also said, the executives buy-in into this. We have amazing technical executives who are promoting the platform, the developer experience portal that we have created, and really engaging teams and managers and demonstrating their support for the adoption of these tools and how we can move from a fragmented way of working to a more simplified and more efficient way of working by collaborating with these tools.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. And, obviously we talk about the purpose, we talk about how do we upsell it, but let's talk, and you all touch base on it. Martin, I think you are the one that sort of talk more extensively about the shape of platforms, but what does it look like, the platform, your platform initiative? Let's start with Jamie.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm working at Elastic inside our platform engineering productivity group. So this is something that kind of naturally occurred. So about 2.5 years ago, we officially formed as a set of teams because so under the platform organization, we have things like Elastic Cloud and a load of other big projects. And we were finding that lots of engineers were spending their little bit of maybe spare time, or while they were trying to deliver feature work, they were also trying to work out why the build's so slow. Like, how do we try and make this monorepo a little bit faster to ship stuff? And so through this, we naturally developed into the engineering productivity organization, which within it, we've also just gone through a little bit of a reorg, which is the first time since we formed. And a lot of that was to basically give us a new, fresh set of perspective, some more clear ownership, and for like external teams as well, knowing which team should I go to because I have this question. The other interesting thing around Elastic is, so as mentioned, I'm in the platform org, but we have other parts of the organization. So for instance, there is a part of the organization that just works on Elasticsearch, and they have naturally also built out a single team that works on engineering productivity. And we found that instead of trying to have like a central platform team that just tries to solve everything, we try and give them a little bit closer specialization. We give them much closer to their customers. And something we'll talk a little bit more about is like empathy as well. So because we're generally engineers inside the organization, we are more aware of what teams are doing. We find it a little bit easier to talk to teams about things. And yeah, as part of that, we can work on like building out our product roadmap with insight from other teams, with insight from senior leadership, as well as being able to also take on bits of inner sourcing. Because again, we don't want engineering productivity platform teams to be the bottleneck, because there's only so many of us. There's generally more product engineers than engineering productivity engineers. So we need to be able to drive that balance of allowing other teams to contribute things they need, as well as us also trying to get our roadmap done.
Mirella, how does it work for you?
Yeah, so within the CIO, we support thousands of software engineers. We support the IT that runs all of IBM. IBM has like 250,000 engineers worldwide. We're present in over 175 countries. So CIO runs the payroll for all of those engineers. And in software and developer experience organization where we're at, we support the CIO. We are creating a common CI/CD pipeline for all types of applications, with making sure that we have the necessary automation and security scanning, vulnerability scanning, standardized across the board. We have a developer portal that has focused on reducing the friction of having to use different tools, instead putting them together in one place where people can just go and find them, find the documentation. And of course, we have these inner source repos where if a team that is in this process of migrating to our pipeline and adopting the portal, they can, and they run into something, they can then contribute to the solution that will allow them to migrate. So that is kind of the shape of where we're at. We're in the middle of a transformation journey. This has been happening over a couple of years. It's been very interesting, the different types of developers and applications that are coming into this pipeline. Yeah, we started with Node.js and Java applications, but we're moving into ZOS mainframe applications that are adopting this pipeline and going through the journey with our developers.
That's quite interesting, and it shows how different scale of organization adopt different approaches. That's quite useful. Thank you. And now what I'm thinking that maybe will be useful to discuss is, well, we talk about platform as a product. So what does discovery look like? How do you figure out what actually your organization and your engineer needs? Mirela, do you want to start on this one?
Yep, totally. Thank you. So I wasn't around at the beginning when this started, when this whole transformation journey started, but it's really exciting to see the iterative approach that has been followed. This isn't a slam, it's there, it's done. No, we're going to continuously evolve and improve with our developers, with our community as needs come up. We do have product owners, and I'm really excited to have learned that one of our engineers working on the CI/CD pipelines just made the jump to becoming the product owner for the pipeline. I'm excited about the insight that he's going to bring as a technical product owner. What I've really found the most benefit in discovery, that has really helped me a lot, is to sit in retrospectives where teams that are onboarding into our tools, they provide feedback. And that feedback has led to a lot of improvements in documentation, a lot of improvements into the different features going into these tools, the capabilities. And I've actually used that feedback as a guideline, as a kind of like the light that I'm following, my north, for developing my enablement strategy to help and support my engineers.
Martin, I know you have something on this space as well.
On the discovery space for sure. I mean, I think there's two things. We certainly internally in Harness make a real effort to make sure that we kind of have these cross product and including platform discussions where we feedback. And when I one of the first times I attended one of those meetings, it was genuinely a joy. And I say that in a like, just because I'm sat there and you've got like the platform team and all the product teams, and they're talking about what they're doing, and they're kind of having these conversations around, well, we need to be able to do A and we need to be able to do Y. And it was very much a collaboration around those. So I think that's kind of key. But I also think, you just need a mechanism internally, in an organization, a bit similar to what you were saying, to be able to consume, that kind of feedback, that iteration, those iterative approaches. It needs to constantly be improving, but you definitely need to be communicating out what you're changing in the platform, right? They need to see that roadmap just as much as product consumers want to see the roadmap. Internal teams need to understand what the roadmap is, where the value constraints are, what's coming, and actually have the power to say, it'd be really good if this came before this, right? To be able to shift that around, because sometimes that can make a huge difference, and if the platform teams aren't listening to that, then it becomes an issue. I certainly know that definitely feeds in here. it was a little different in my previous org, but it did have the same effect, you know. But I think that's because they were a platform that products were adopting, whereas here the products in the platform are tightly integrated because we consume what we make. So our platform is what we consume. So, you know, anytime we make anything, believe me, it goes through a lot of developer experience internally before it goes to anybody externally.
Yeah, fair enough, Martin. And there is like a follow-up question on this one that really is hunting me right now, but not more than right now. It's always there for me. That is, you know, it's great that we're thinking of platform as bottom-up led. You know, we look at the customer or the engineer. We're trying to figure out how to do that. At the same time, often we have from, let's say, from the top, or from compliance, or from security, from cost restructuring, there are needs that I also need to take in consideration. So what I'm trying to figure out is how do you balance? Like, you know, making sure that your engineers have effective tools with requests that are coming from the broader business, if you like. Martin, I'll pick you because I think it's a good follow-up from what you were saying before.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to start with my previous company because they had a very mixed approach in terms of that kind of bottom up and top down. So they very much had a mixed approach to that. But honestly, if you're going to do platform engineering, if you don't have the sponsorship from the top, it's never going to succeed. But, you know, for example, they were very focused on security, but, you know, as anybody who works in engineering knows, you know, if you can build a shiny new feature or fix a security bug, the shiny new feature often gets the priority, not because they think it's less important, but because they really want to do it. And so the approach that they took was to actually just say, hey, you know what, we expect you to spend 10% of your time, you know, working on security. We expect you to spend a percentage of your time managing your technical debt. You know, we expect you to do that. So, you know, it becomes a very, you know, a very kind of focused part of the work that gets done to make sure you kind of get that push from above versus that. And I think budgeting that time that way kind of allocates a cost and a budget to it as well. You know, from that business side, I think it really helps drive it. Like across the piece, realistically, because, you know, ultimately everything comes down to those kind of let's make sure that we're doing this in an effective way that makes sure we have happy engineers who want to stay and work and want to work on our products and want to, you know, do all those things. But we need to do that in a way that is cost effective and is driving value, you know, from a platform engineering perspective, driving value internally and, you know, often externally. And one final thing, we listened to somebody who was looking after that kind of developer experience and internal platform from one of the large financial institutions in the US. He was speaking to us and he deliberately related those two things. He was saying, you know, actually happy engineers who get to do and build all the right things and make for happy customers because what they build is so much better. And I think, you know, that kind of sponsorship and across the piece to kind of drive that top down, that was the vision from top down, but it was driving it from bottom up. And that's how they made sure that they put the budgets in the right place, that they were doing the spend in the right place because it all equated out. You're on mute.
Ha, my daughter just walked in. This is why I put myself on mute. Jamie, what's your view on this balancing act?
So I guess the first thing, so it's interesting, Martin mentioned about like that, like a percentage of time for teams to work on things. Because I used to work at a large enterprise, which was like a third the size of IBM, but still large enterprise. And so we were effectively given a percentage of time for working on tech debt, working on improvements and things. But then the enterprise started taking advantage of that. And there was a large amount of replatforming. There were a large amount of, in our opinion, not that important changes that needed to be done. And so basically what we had was a load of things that we really wanted to do and that we needed to do that would like improve operability of our services, that would allow us to have confidence in our testing, that we just couldn't get to because there were so many things being pushed to us, which is one of those difficulties of that balance. And it's at the time, like our product teams and our engineering managers didn't have the ability to say no, which is difficult. And I mentioned that, so going to right now at Elastic, so we've recently had a reorg within engineering productivity, and some of that has been to give us better control and better insight into our own roadmap and to make sure that works with our customers better. So one of the things we've got now as part of our planning is we have 3 key themes of work. I can't remember all 3 of them offhand, but one of them is like supply chain security. And so as long as we are working towards those 3 themes of work, it doesn't matter what we're doing, as long as we have thought about it. Like we're not just doing, all right, I'm just going to go and learn to cook. But as long as it works within those 3 themes, as long as we've prioritized it according to what do our customers want and getting them very involved in that process of prioritization, making sure that it also goes in with what are the things on our product roadmap and what are the things that have been like annoying us that we want to get fixed, and going through all that prioritization and making sure that we have the right call. And so I really like this because our leadership have given us that trust in saying, as long as it fits in these 3 things that are quite wide in terms of scope, you can do what you want and we'll be happy with that, which is really nice because, yeah, sometimes you can be in quite a prescriptive state where you don't have that ability, or you have like a great roadmap and then one of the senior execs is like, well, I've heard we need to do this thing, or AI is the thing, let's try and AI all the platforms. Yeah.
Thank you, Jamie. Certainly that phrase, we all heard that in the past few months. This is very interesting. You know, it really shows how much variation there is in the industry when tackling prioritization. And another aspect that I wanted to touch base now is adoption. So how do you actually get customers, engineers for your internal product? Do you mandate adoption? And if you do, you know, in what circumstances? Is it only specific for some specific situation? Jamie, given that you just finished, I thought that would be a good way for you to start.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I've been on both sides of this very recently. And in fact, when I was at this large enterprise, we had a little bit of the carrot and stick. So interestingly, that Mirella mentions about a single unified CI/CD platform, because we were doing that as well. But what had happened there was the rest of the enterprise was over in the States, and they had built a platform that worked very well for them and the like dozen lines of business. And then suddenly we in the UK were told, you need to use this platform. And it wasn't built for us. There weren't anyone in our time zones to talk to. So when things broke, we had to wait until someone was online several hours later. And so there were things like that we were basically just told to use it. And it was a mandate. And there was no way that we could have tried to have solved some of the requirements on our own time. I mean, we tried to look at, because there was like a list of, you need to be able to tick off these things to say, yes, you're compliant. And it would have taken too long. But it also took us many years to properly migrate onto that platform. And one of the problems with that was empathy. And so we had our engineering leaders just not really understanding that we were having a bad time with it, even though we told them. And one of the problems was it was trying to understand the difference between engineers just complaining and engineers complaining because there is an actual problem. And this is something I've seen on both sides. So as a consumer and grumbling because we're trying to do something, but also as someone building a platform out. So at this company, I did some work to rebuild the way we did CI/CD pipelines for a very small percentage of things. As part of that, it was a much better platform. Like I had spent 4 years as a consumer of this platform. Then spent like 6 months improving it, getting it to the point where it was really, really nice. But you still have to convince people. And in that case, we basically made it a requirement because you had to go through that pipeline. And one of the really important things was learning from the customers, like, why don't they want to adopt it? What are the pain points? And not only talking to like the power users, but also the people who maybe touch it every couple of months because it's not that frequent, but learning like what are their use cases and not trying to over optimize for the people who spend their whole day there, but for everyone all along the place. There was an interesting comment from Galbash at LeadDev London last year around you shouldn't mandate platforms where possible because you're robbing yourself of a really interesting metric, which is, do people actually want to use your platform? And so as I mentioned, like empathy is really important here. And something we've done at Elastic is, as part of this reshuffle, we actually have a team called the engagement team. And their job is to work with teams very directly. So they will actually embed an engineer in different teams. And we'll see day to day, like, what are the problems with our tools? So as well as talking to them regularly, which we already do, it's also having someone in there for the minutiae of what is going wrong. What are the different things that we can do better? Not even just things like, oh, the docs are wrong, but have we just completely misunderstood a use case? Or do you not do the thing that we thought you do more than like twice a year, stuff like that. So yeah, it's a long answer to basically say it depends, and it's a little bit difficult, but if you lead with actually talking to the people and trying to really understand why, yeah, that can be quite a good solution.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you. I'm going to start to have to wrap up, but before I do, Nayana, would you like to give your point of view on this question?
Sure. I think it's a follow-on from what Jamie has just said, which is the consumer teams have a direct leading indicators. Like for the Lego group, it could be things like higher sales or better engagement, NPS, and then there's improved speed to market, these kind of things. Like, I think what platform teams will have to look at when they think about adoption is leading and lagging indicators. Like all of these things that I've just mentioned should be lagging indicators for platform teams as well. So they have to somehow relate to what the business at the end actually sells or like is there for. But also there's probably leading indicators, which is like maybe identifying like jobs to be done that not for yourself, but for the customer. Like probably an analogy is if we were selling a product rather than selling, or I'm going to take the Lego group's example, where let's say we're going to sell a Lego set, rather than saying, I want to sell more of this set. If I said, I want to, like as a parent, I want to find a better way to engage with my kid. And if you take that as your job to be done, what comes as input to it is very different to if you just said, I want to sell more. The same kind of approach we should probably start looking at when we look at platform adoption, which is not how I can get more people to use my Kubernetes platform or an API platform, but what is the job to be done for the end user, which is like they want to make sure they can quickly deploy their APIs into the cloud so that they can then enable a customer use case. So if we looked at that as a problem statement, which then directly says your leading indicator becomes speed to market. So how do you measure speed to market rather than having to measure how many consumers we've got on the platform, which is more of my job to be done versus what my customer's job to be done is. So identifying those customers' jobs to be done, I think, is a way of finding those leading indicators that you can then work towards, and also always have an eye on the lagging indicators. And probably one that I want to conclude with on this one is I often encourage platform teams to, I think Jamie also got to this, which is encourage platform teams to sit closely with their customers. I mean, that's the benefit of you being an internal product. Like you can go and see your customers on a day-to-day basis, sit with them, understand them, recognize their challenges, and allow platform teams to or allow customer teams to build their own platforms, and then find a way to graduate it to wider. Like it's very hard to start something that can work for, like in IBM's case, for like something that's at 200,000 people. It's very hard to build something from the start that can scale to that kind of ecosystem. So start somewhere small where you're only serving to one domain or just 4 or 5 different product teams, and then see how you scale it up, rather than trying to do start from a big thing and then come down to a much narrower area. And also, I guess something to note is, like, sometimes we might have to mandate, because that's the only way to get adoption. So while I agree with Jamie's point on that is probably not the best way to move forward, however, I would probably flip that around and say, don't look at these as mandates, but as enabling constraints that your teams can work within, so that your team doesn't have to put their cognitive load in figuring out those things. You have already done those, you've set some boundaries within which they can operate. So I think there is value in mandating in some aspects, but not look at it as from tomorrow, everyone has to use this platform. Not that way, but more of an enabling constraint, which can be argued on, saying, oh no, we have a use case where it doesn't fit in, so we have to go a different route, which is an acceptable way to move forward as well. So I think that's what I would conclude with, saying mandates probably needed sometimes, but stay away from them as much as possible and try to build products that people need, so that people would naturally gravitate towards it.
Diana, thank you so much. I need to start wrapping up. So I want to say, go back to the original question. That was, does your company organization need platform engineering? Well, the truth is that you already have a platform, you like it or not. If you're going to use, the best tooling, the best capability, the best process possible to make it effective and sort of allow your team to do a great job, is up to you. But remember, you still have some sort of platform in your organization. And so to wrap it up, thank you so much. This has all been great. We really had some great panelists there. We're all going to move now on the Lead Dev Slack channel, specifically on technical strategy channel. So all the questions you ask for, we're going to respond them in the channel. I'm so sorry we ran a bit late. That's why we go in the channel and we respond all there. But thank you so much, you all. Bye.